104 vlogs in, back at Peppermill, Reno, second floor. And it's been kind of a streaky year. I feel like it's been like win, 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 loss, 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 win, win, win kind of deal. So, we'll see what we can make happen today on a day where I think we're going to get a pretty solid game, but we'll find out. So I show up at Peppermill, Reno at about 1 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, and I jump into the 5 seat this time. It's not ideal for vlogging, but it's the only seat where you can get video of the cards on the board, so that's cool. It's also nice given the fact that there's simply more room with the plexiglass dividers. I also got a new cover for my vlogging cell phone, so I can properly tell Ringo which one it is, if he has to reach into a bag and grab it for me at a critical moment. The game was pretty good. There were lots of big pots. And one of the first ones I got into came when we were playing six-handed early in the day. Under the gun limps, as does the hijack, and I have jack 9 of diamonds in the cutoff, and I make it 25. Under the gun calls, and the hijack folds, so it's 60 in. The flop comes king, queen, 10, all spades. Definitely not a spot to slow play my flopped straight on a monotone board, so I bet out for 40 after he checks. He shows the ace of clubs and just wants me to know that if he'd had the ace of spades, he would have called me. Thanks, bro. That is truly next level thinking. Still six-handed, under the gun, the same guy as before, opens to 20, and I'm again in the cutoff, and this time I have ace 6 of hearts, and I make the call. The big blind comes along too, so it's 60 in. I flop a pair of aces and the nut flush draw. It gets checked to me, and I bet 30. The blind folds, and the pre-flop raiser calls, which, as I've said before, you should usually expect at the $5 blind level when someone raises pre-flop and checks the flop. So with 120 in, the turn is the 9 of hearts, giving me the nut flush. He checks, and I bet 60, not wanting to get too greedy, but knowing there's a good chance that I could be getting called light by this particular opponent. So with 240 in, the river's an offsuit 5, and again he checks. I figured the most likely thing would be for him to have a hand like ace-jack here, though I would have thought that he would bet that on the flop. So I wasn't 100% sure on sizing, but I settle on 150, which he proceeds to snap call. So we have a $540 pot, which obviously I'm winning, and I end up beating a set of 9s that he made on the turn. We get a limp under the gun, and I have queen 10 of hearts this time, plus 1. I raise to 25, and it folds back around to him, and he calls. So with 55 in, it comes slightly above average. Jack 9, 7, all hearts. He checks, and I consider slow playing, but decide against it. I fire in a green chip, and he comes along. So with 105 in, the turn is the 8 of clubs, bringing in a one-liner to a 10, and he checks. I bet 60 here, and then something interesting happens. He check raises to 125. Now, it felt on the flop like he was somewhat hesitant to continue. I could be wrong on that read, but based on his body language and pacing, that's what I came up with. It feels like he has a 10 here, based on this line, and I'd hate to lose him with a re-raise. So I opt to just call and see what he does on the river, hoping, obviously, that he bets. So with 355 in, the river is a brick, and now he checks. I decide to bet big here, thinking that with that brick, he'll probably call with a 10. So I bet 250, and he snap calls. So we have an $855 pot. I show my hand, and he mucks. So we're off to a good start in this cash game, and then we get a middle position straddle to 10, and I have pocket 10s under the gun. I make it 30, and only the straddle ends up coming along. So with 65 in, the flop is 7-5-4 all clubs, giving me an overpair and a 10 high flush draw. I bet 40, and he calls fairly quickly. So with 145 in, the turn is the 9 of clubs. Despite my hand improving, this was not the card I was hoping to see. I check, and he bets 55, which I just don't see how on earth I can fold to here against the straddle. So with 255 in, the river is the deuce of diamonds, and I check. He fairly quickly checks back, so at that point, I assume that I'm winning this pot about 98% of the time. But he shows the Jack 9 offsuit with the Jack of clubs. Interestingly played hand on his part, to say the least. Next hand under the gun limps, and the low jack had posts to 5 after missing the blind. and he's clearly not paying that much attention. And that was actually part of the reason that I looked down at ace-10 offsuit in the hijack and looked to press it. I make it 25, which to my surprise, both the big blind and under the gun call with the low jack folding as I suspected he would. So with 80 in, it comes ace of spades, 7 of spades, jack of clubs. The big blind checks, and the limper donk leads 25, which he will definitely do with a lot of hands, as I've seen him do in the past. I'd raise here sometimes, but I was really curious to see if he'd continue to donk the turn, as I'd seen him do on an earlier hand. I call, and the blind calls also. So with 155 in, the turn's the 8 of diamonds, and now both guys check to me. I figured I had the best hand here, but couldn't be in all that great a shape. So I bet 85, trying to take the pot down right there, which doesn't happen. The blind calls, and under the gun folds. So with 325 in, the river is an offsuit 4, and now he checks. I elect to just check this back here, which is not really the bend each way, but I don't really know how this guy plays, and this pot had already grown bigger than I ever expected it to when I raised it pre-flop with ace-10 off. He ends up showing queen-jack of spades, so we had to fade a lot of outs, but we ended up doing it, and we take down a nice pot as a result. Then a big-time VIP sits down in the game, and I haven't played with him very often, but there is no doubt that out of all the VIPs in Reno, he has by far run the best against me over the years. So with that in mind, this next hand comes when he raises to 20 from early position, and I call on the button with 6-7 of hearts. So it's heads up with 45 in, and it comes 10 of hearts, 9 of clubs, 3 of hearts, giving me a flush draw and a gut shot straight draw. He bets big. He fires 65, which I'm obviously going to call. So with 175 in, the turn is not a good card for me. It's the queen of diamonds. And now he bets 110. And at this point, stack sizes play a big role. Given the fact that we're playing 1500 effective, as you can see, I'm already up quite a bit on the day, and he bought in deep. I'm going to make this call here too, and hope to hit the river and win a big pot. So with 395 in, the river's an offsuit king. And now he checks. Now I have 7 high here, obviously. But there is now a one-liner on the board. And I'm faced with the decision about should I bluff, and if I bluff, how much should I bet? Now I thought there was actually a decent chance that he had been bluffing this entire way. But once he checked the river, I knew that meant he had showdown value. If he had nothing, he's definitely firing this river. I figured ace-queen was a pretty likely holding for him, but it was hard to say. Ultimately, I decided it was worth the risk. I fire 200, just over half the pot. I do fade the snap call, which was good news, and he takes about 30 seconds thinking about it, and makes the call. So we have a $795 pot, which we're obviously going to be losing, and he shows pocket aces for the win. I don't think it was a terrible play, but the fact of the matter is, I'm not here to bluff guys like him. I'm here to have guys like him bluff me. And I'm convinced that at least a small part of his subconscious reasoning for calling me involves the fact that he's had such good fortune against me over the years that he's just used to beating me out of hands. So that also worked against me in that one. So our first big setback of the day, but then we get another VIP sitting in the game and an under-the-gun limp, 6-handed. I have pocket kings on the button, and I make it 20. The big blind, a very tough Serbian player, makes the call, as does the VIP. So at 60 in, it comes queen of clubs, deuce of clubs, 9 of diamonds, and I bet 40. Both guys end up check calling me. So with 180 in, the turn is the 8 of spades, and again, it gets checked to me. I bet 80, and again, they both call. So at 340 in, the river is the deuce of diamonds, and again, they check. I bet 125 here, and the big blind pays me off, and under the gun folds. So we have a $590 pot, which I take down against a queen. I did not see what kicker he had. We play about another half an hour. Don't have too many hands worth noting. Rack up and book the win. All right, just cashed out, booking a $747 win, snapping several losing sessions in a row here at Peppermill. So thought I played reasonably well for the most part, and obviously ran reasonably well, that's for sure. I continue to get asked what a VIP is. I feel like every single vlog I do, someone asks me what a VIP is. So what I'm considering doing, and I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but if there's questions that you guys want to ask, put them in the comments below. And I'll go through and I'll do just a section of question answering. That obviously being one of them, and that's one that 99% of you obviously already know. But I'll answer it for those that don't. So we can potentially do that next vlog if there's interest. If there's not, well then we won't do it. Hit the like and subscribe button, it's great for the channel. Those of you that have been doing it lately, I really appreciate. Thanks for those of you that have come on lately. We've cruised past 20,000 subs here on this channel, and it looks like it's just going to continue to go up. And I really do appreciate that. We'll see you back here next time.